The guy who has 4.
You can adjust the zoom as you want.
I know how to talk to people, but how did you even see? Bro, you just survived.
About this by
He had on his back.
a little long.
Well, he's actually pretty strong. He's just so good that he makes it. He just like 4 Why is that so exciting? How does Rosalina use that?
Oh, I was gonna say.
I feel right if we sit here.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Sherry Bernand. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Roanoke. Welcome to everyone here, of course, and especially welcome to any visitors we have today and the folks who are joining us via YouTube. Our minister today is in the pulpit, and his name is Reverend Walter LaFleur. And the focus of his sermon is creating relationships this morning. Please silence your cell phones.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the middle of December. As is our tradition, we begin each service by recognizing our 7 principles by ringing the bell 7 times. Our opening words this morning come from our president of our denomination, Susan Gray. She writes in part, "As we enter into the season of turning and change, let us give thanks in a genuine manner. Let our gratitude flow from our deep, ongoing commitment to justice and equity. Let our gratitude grow from the beauty and sustenance of the earth and the miracle and joy of life. Let our gratitude grow from the opportunities we have to be together authentically in the fullness of our humanity. And let us continue to grow in our capacity for courage, compassion, solidarity, and justice within and beyond our communities. Yours in love, Susan." Our words of welcome. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you express your identity, whoever or whatever your situation in life, whatever your experience of the holy, as you come seeking love, your presence here is a gift. Whether you're filled with sadness, overflowing with joy, needing to be alone with yourself, or eager to engage with others, all who welcome all are welcome here. You want to try the batches? Will that work? Our translating words. We, Unitarian Universalists, are a covenantal people of faith and experimentation. We covenant to affirm and promote the best of what humanity has to offer. May we be faithful to our faith.
To
morning, everyone. My name is Jessie McEwen. I'm the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here. And I'm being indicated that I cannot be heard, so I will take, that's the first time I've been told no one could hear me. So every once in a while, I'll ask people to take a deep breath with me. I think today is one of those days. So why don't we just take a quick deep breath in and release. On Friday night, I was in this very room watching a movie with some of my friends. Betsy was there. Who else was there? Oscar, Heath, Leo. And it was a wonderful movie about, who knows what of you guys shout out what movie we watched? Okay, so Onward, brothers, thank you, Heath. Brothers bring their dad back. Their dad had passed away and they bring their dad back for one special day. Unfortunately, the spell goes wrong and they only get his bottom half. So it's some pants running around with really nice shoes. And they have to find a way to communicate with him. They play the drums on his feet. But through this adventure that these brothers go on to try and bring back that top half, they have to go on this mythic quest and they have to travel all over Mushroomville, I think is where they live. I've only seen it twice, so don't hold me to those facts. But through that journey, they discover more about each other. And it sounds like something we've heard so many times, but my friend Leo said, you know, sometimes brothers have to do different things to help each other, and it might not be what we want to do. I can't tell you how many times I have helped my own little brother with things that I might not want to do. I'm gonna tell on him a little bit. He used to get in trouble at school all the time. Sometimes I would have to give him my shoes because he showed up without shoes on. And, you know, I always had a pair of flip-flops in my locker, so I'd give my brother my shoes. Yes, we wear the same size shoe. Sometimes I'd get him out of a jam. But you know who taught me how to drive? My little brother. And in this movie that we watched, brothers, they're discovering things about each other because they're making these big sacrifices for each other. One brother knows in his head it's the right way to go, and the other brother says, no, let's go another way. So he says, okay, we'll go that other way. And they get in a jam. They meet a manticore. They meet all these amazing animals and people. They end up going through, like, they ride on a boat made out of a blown up Cheeto. Like, it's really cool if you haven't seen it. And I'm trying not to spoil it for you. But through that adventure, they learned how to give each other what the other one needs and how to accept the things that they think they don't. And when we think about relationships, that's exactly what we have to do. And gosh, that's hard. Was it easy? The movie was like an hour and a half long. Was it easy for those brothers to learn from each other? No, I got both a verbal no and a finger wag. It was not easy. And I'm gonna challenge you brothers, is it easy for you to learn from each other too? No, it's not. But you know what else I saw? I saw 3 young boys helping each other get comfortable, settling down to watch the movie. They helped each other arrange pillows and blankets. They also helped each other. They explained parts of the movie that didn't make sense. I thought I was going to have to explain it, but they explained it to each other. And that, to me, is where it all begins. So watching that, you know, I had planned, I'm going to find a book, I'm going to do something lofty, but these guys told me what we were going to talk about today. They showed me what relationship is, and they showed me what working together is. And from here, we're going to go outside and we're going to work together to learn a little bit about the Tutelo and Occaneechi bands of the Saponi tribe, who were living on this very land a very long time ago. So if you are kindergarten through 5th grade and you'd like to join me, or you're older and you'd like to join me too, we're going to meet in the lobby out front. I'm going to grab my backpack and we are going to go find some crops and some furs to trade.
You know, folks, this thing called being human is not so much fun sometimes. And this morning we're practicing not being human by kind of winging it. We forgot to let our board this morning say words about the board meeting that just passed. Jean?
Not a problem. I'm always ready to talk. I would like to talk about how much I love the music. I would like to talk about Betsy Biesenbach's wonderful book that the board got a sneak look at with the its important history and really cool illustrations. But I'm not going to do that. What we've been working on your board this last month has been kind of a mix of both practicalities and long-term visioning. So under Rev Walter's guidance, that is to say, repeated kindly nudging, we're thinking about our community's covenant, what it is that we all commit to in our relationships with each other. You know, it's really a pretty special thing to be part of a social group that shares and aims to enact values that really matter, not only in the larger world, but in the harder things sometimes, our dealings right here, right now. So you'll be hearing more about covenant. Which is to say our agreement, our contract, our mutual understanding, our heartfelt deal with one another. I also want to give props to our dauntless board president, Erica Joyner, for kindly and repeatedly reminding us we need to keep in mind our stated goals as a congregation, and especially as a UU group that has committed to doing serious developmental work with ourselves. That was a commitment we made before we brought in Rev Walter as our developmental minister. It was also before the pandemic hit, but we're not going there. I want to thank particularly board members Matt Livingston and Walker Hartman, who did great work in the previous month, pulling together an assessment of our generosity campaign. Now, if you're new here, that's the name, Generosity Campaign, for how we remind folks that everyone needs to pitch in to keep this ship afloat. Most of you know we were pretty worried last June as the campaign, last year's campaign, and the fiscal year were wrapping up. You heard me up here saying we got money problems. Our VP Finance, Gary Mason, worked many long hours figuring out how to balance our budget given what our 21-22 income was shaping up to be. And then, moment of drama, a last-minute wave of additional financial pledges was triggered by a generous UUCR member, and the day was saved, so then Gary fixed the budget. But as a result of all of that, Matt Livingston created some really cool graphs about giving patterns and such, which are already helping us think about how to let people know, how to let you know, how you do, about how and why to do our part. So you're going to be hearing more about that. Gary has continued to wrangle with the paperwork, with bids and so on, about getting that accessibility ramp installed at our front door. It will be worth every penny of the $10,000 it's going to cost. And we expect that the Roanoke City Building Department is going to come through with official development of the final plan real soon now. Gary's on it. We all should thank our new official facilities committee members. That's Eric Hill, Dave Bratton, Susan Newton, and Jerry Trammell. We've been taking up important work on the other way we keep this leaky, beloved tub afloat. So far, no one that I know of has had to put up an umbrella inside the building on a rainy day yet. And if we get the roof fixed, that'll continue to be true. Another money thing. I'm a real fan of all of our mission groups and all the outreach work they do in the community around us. But at our last meeting, we got a report from the Reading Seeds team, and I want to give them a special shout out for what they've been doing in the post-lockdown period. They've been not only applying for grants and getting them, But they've been getting literally thousands of books into the hands of kids at the Raleigh Court Head Start Center and several local elementary schools. Books in kids' hands, kids getting read to. They're also providing support for the Little Free Library that's a Girl Scout project for Maya Thompson and Elise Deerstein, and they are looking into new additional outreach venues. Yay. Catherine Hoffman, who's our president-elect, has been working very hard in one area, is leading and working with our COVID safety task force. After research and cost evaluation, and I hear a little canny horse trading by Bert Spetzler, the task force is going to be buying 4 air purifiers for the building. Now, we all know that air purifiers alone cannot stop the virus, but it feels real good to have an additional safety measure in place. So there'll be one in the Olin room, one in the fellowship hall, and a couple in here, I think. The one board member I haven't mentioned by name yet is Jill Thompson. She's the new kid, and when we're not hazing her, she's managed to figure things out. Her common sense, professional expertise, and her informed reminders of what it's actually like these days for kids and parents have enriched that stew that we brew on the second Monday evening of every month. So when you see her, thank her too. And remember that volunteer work for this zooey and delightful community enhances life for the community and for the volunteer. Thank you.
This morning's reading, it comes from the UUA Tapestry of Faith, it's a religious education program. One evening, an elderly Cherokee brave told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, "My son, the battle is between 2 wolves inside us all. One is evil, it is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other wolf is good. It is joy, peace and love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith." The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf wins?" The old Cherokee simply replied, "The one that you feed."
Folks, now is the time in the life of this church when we ask that you share your financial resources. At other times, is it my time? Okay, I'll keep going. At other times, we'll ask that you share your competencies, your hopes and aspirations for who we are and who we are to become as a faith community. For it takes each of us contributing in our own and varied ways for us to grow into the future of this congregation. Offering will be gratefully received. glad you're here today. For you who make us who we are and who we are becoming, we're grateful. We do use our covenantal people. We exist as a faith community built not on a shared creed or shared belief system, but on a shared commitment, As a denomination and as a congregation, we covenant to affirm and promote is our commitment. We affirm and promote the commitment to our 7 principles. Betsy, can you put up? They are already. This is the adult version. The children's version that comes from that same Tapestry of Faith programming that you just heard the wolf story from. The kids say, our first principle, we believe that each and every person is important. The second principle, we believe that all people should be treated fairly and kindly. Third, we believe that we should accept one another and keep on learning together. Fourth, we believe that each person must be free to search for what is true and right in life. The fifth principle, we believe that all persons should have a vote about the things that concern them. 6, we believe in working for a peaceful, fair, and free world. And lastly, we believe in caring for our planet Earth, the home we share with all living things. Good kids, huh? I want to thank our intrepid clerk of the board, Jean Larson, because now we have a short version of a covenant. Now, I don't know if it's been adopted or if it was started and stopped. I just don't know. We'll figure that out as time goes on. But I do know that the 23 words are special. They say, we commit to honoring and supporting with direct communication and acts of goodwill our human relationships and the lives that sustain us. 23 words. And another covenant that's recently been created by the board. It says, we hold sacred space for each other to foster trust, courage, and inspired leadership. From my window in the congregation and the board, it's working. Thanks. And yet, because we are human, we are not perfect. As Mom used to say, you can bet your bottom dollar. We ain't perfect as individuals, nor as a community. And that's because we're not perfect, because we're human. Today, I want to remind us of our denominational covenant and our denominational covenant and our congregational covenant. I want to remind us that words and deeds are not one and the same. I want to remind us that a covenant or a promise has real value only in the living manifestation of it. Otherwise, just words and a knife set of beliefs. As church members, we're not perfect. As children, spouses, and friends, we're not perfect. I emphasize this fact because we all too often forget we're dealing with mere human beings, folks. Human beings with a basket full of likes, wishes, preconceived notions, needs, and fears, just like you, me, and the person sitting next to you. We often expect others to believe or behave in accordance with our belief system, our values, our wants and needs. And we all too often fail to see ourselves in the mirror, even as we hold others accountable for their behavior. Sound familiar, anybody? But no guilt here. I want no guilt. No guilt, because we're human. I have zero interest in eliciting self-condemnation for our humanness, for how could it be otherwise? I simply ask for our self-awareness, some sense of candor, some sense of empathy and acceptance of one another. And most importantly, I want to remind us of our covenantal agreement regarding how we have agreed to be in relationship with one another. Our covenantal relationship with one another is a two-way street. We each must be willing to self-monitor ourselves, take responsibility for our thoughts, words, and actions. This requires an ability to see oneself in the mirror, so to speak, an ability to be conscious of how we are behaving, how we're coming across. The words we use, the tone of voice, the facial expressions, our body language, they all communicate on their own particular channel. When we get lost or trapped in our own thoughts, our own beliefs, our own emotions, we risk losing our ability to see ourselves in the mirror. During such times, one can look to the external to give us anything from a hint, a nudge, to unequivocal feedback regarding how we are being received, the impact we're having on one another as human beings. When we get lost or trapped in our own thoughts, beliefs, emotions, content seldom matters to the receiver. It's at that point the dynamics of interactions often take center stage. Our inherited fight or flight instincts are likely to be engaged, and the odds of a positive outcome diminish quickly, and often diminish literally or dramatically. If we're to be a covenantal community, we should be clear about what we've signed up for. We should self-monitor ourselves, be self-aware of our own behavior and our potential impact. Otherwise, how could we know whether or not we're behaving in a way that demonstrates a belief, a commitment to honoring another's inherent worth and dignity. How else would we be able to support another's search for truth and meaning? How else could we be responsible members of this faith community? How else could we value each other more than the subject or content at hand? Since all communication requires a sender and a receiver, those on the receiving end have an obligation as well. There's an obligation in this relationship of commitment to covenant. The one or ones on the receiving end of the dynamic mentioned above is not without responsibility to honor inherent worth and dignity, to treat people fairly and kindly, to accept one another and keep learning together, as the kids say. But those same people are not required to behave in such a manner under any and all circumstances. A responder is not required to be superhuman without thoughts, needs, and feelings of their own. At some point, in order to be faithful to covenant, one may need to disengage. One may need to accept that in this moment, I am unable to engage in a conversation, in a covenanted manner, and retain my own true sense of self, to maintain my own inherent worth and dignity. So at times, you need to disengage. Alternately, one might choose to stay engaged with the person who seems to have lost awareness of themselves, or who seem to have lost concern for others. We may choose to stay engaged. One might let the speaker know how they're feeling, given the interactions at hand. They might communicate that they are beginning to feel defensive or uncomfortable with the tone or content of the interaction, that they're uncomfortable with judging others rather than a focus on the other's words or deeds, that they would feel a need, that they would need a different tone or dynamic in order to stay engaged. By now, I suspect more than 3 of you are wondering why this man is talking to us about 3rd grade Unitarian Universal curriculum. The answer is because it's important. It's important because the core of that curriculum is foundational to who we are as a faith community, who we are as Unitarian Universalists, who we are as UU Congregation of Roanoke. Foundation. And we want to teach our kids how to be good UUs, even from their shortness. And because it's important to be clear that Unitarian Universalism is not just nice liberal thoughts and beliefs. That the power of Unitarian Universalism is in its lived experience, in its manifestation in the world. and because we are each called to live out our belief systems, to be in the world. We're called to live out our belief system in our personal lives, in the world, and maybe most importantly, to practice that behavior within the four walls of this sacred space we call church, as we interact with one another. How we treat each other, how we interact with each other matters greatly. You see, we exist within the context of a covenant, folks. It's a promise we make to one another, a promise of how we will be with one another. You know, we're not like the bears out in the woods who are wholly self-sufficient and self-reliant. We exist within community, within the context of human emotions and human frailties. And we fall short of our own expectations and the expectations of others. Because it could be no other way being human. For we are mere humans, and we need one another. We give and we give love and are fed at a foundational level within the context of relationship. And we veer off course when we forget our interconnectedness, our obligation by covenant to one another. We veer off course when we get caught up in our heads, our thoughts, and our beliefs, and instead get driven by feelings. Our UU preamble begins with these words. We covenant to affirm and promote. We covenant to affirm and promote. Those are action words. And we start down the wrong road when our focus is only or primarily on the 7 principles themselves. Principles of belief, concepts, not action. As wonderful as our 7 principles are, they're beliefs. Folks, therein lies, I'm convinced, the underbelly, the fragility of Unitarian Universalism. Therein lies the fragility of Unitarian Universalism. At least that's my belief. So many of us focus on the statements of belief, mental constructs, one and all, 1 through 7. So many of us miss the forest for the trees. The heart and power of Unitarian Universalism is in the doing. It's lived manifestation. A covenant to affirm and promote. To do, to affirm and promote. Bottom line, it's all about which wolf you feed. Those of beliefs are those of behavior. And if I get a vote, our behavior is what matters. And at some point, that's all that matters. How we agree to be in relationship with one other and the world is Unitarian Universalism in operation. The 7 principles are wonderful as concepts, just wonderful concepts. It's all in the living and the doing that makes Unitarian Universalism as wonderful and as powerful as it is, with the ability to change the world. If we feed the right wolf. God bless. Amen.
Okay. I'm Jane Harrison from the Caring Committee. And what the Caring Committee is, one of the many things that we do is we share the joys and concerns of this congregation. And if you have a joy or a concern that you wish to share, you can call the church office, you can let somebody from the Caring Committee know, or you could write it in our Lifelines books, which sits on the altar, and we'll be glad to share it with you on Sunday mornings. Also, if you have a silent joy or a concern you want to share, you can use the bowl and put a pebble in that, and there's one in the front and there's one in the back, that you can put a silent joy or concern in there if you want to. There is nothing in the Lifelines book at this present time. I have no other joys and concerns to share. So therefore, Reverend Aldrin, I will now light candles for all those who are present and not present. As we do this, let us take this time to be together in meditation, prayer, reflection for all those people and events in our lives that move us. May our prayers be heard and our hearts be restored.
Come with me into a time of prayer and quiet reflection. Today, in advance of November 20th, we take this time to align ourselves with the Transgender Day of Remembrance. Founded in 1999 in Allston, Massachusetts, it's designed to memorialize those who have died during the past year at the hands of transphobia. We take this time to contemplate the continued violence endured by transgender people. This day is to remember those on this side of the ocean and on the other. Scholar Sarah Lambert tells us it is not enough honor the memory of the dead. We must transform the practices of the living. May we partake in that work again and again and again. Before we go to announcements,
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul.
I don't have any specific announcements for this morning, but we want to make sure any announcements that need to be, let everybody know about, we need to do that. So I'm going to ask anybody who's got something they need to announce this morning to just raise your hand or whatever. Anybody have anything? Yes, and Walker has a special announcement.
anybody up there? Did I see you?
Good morning, all. I'm Walker Hartman. I'm glad I'm able to follow up the sermon today with some doing things for you. That's right. Both from the amazing Betsy Giesenbach. Betsy is involved directly with the effort to provide food for the homeless students over at Patrick Henry during their 2-week fall break. You may participate in that by picking up a packet, and they will be available here. The bags are attached to the music stand on the back row of the choir risers, by golly. And there will also be a bin out back in case you aren't here today or can't get to church, where you can pick those up or deliver them when they're filled. You can contact Betsy if you need to get the list of items that they were requesting for the students right across the street from us here at Patrick Henry. Betsy also is an author. Some of you are aware of that. One of her latest creations is the book, Say My Name, the story of a young girl, Amanda Jeffers, who grew up here in a Raleigh Court area circa 1864. She and our own Judy Nelson have authored and illustrated a new book, which Betsy has given the publishing rights to UUCR in honor of all the children here at UUCR. And we will be celebrating that beginning this afternoon in the garden after the service. I will precede Betsy with the books, and she'll be along as soon as she gets all of her chores and duties done here in the sanctuary. So if you want to wait for her so she can autograph your book, you're welcome to do that. The books cost us $3 to publish. We're charging $10. Again, the proceeds will go here to UUCR. This is a great opportunity to act and to live your faith, especially with those who are near and dear to you and who need to begin to grieve a little bit our legacy of racism as a predecessor to the healing that must happen within our community and within our own lives. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I share with you an announcement that I hope any number of you have seen because it was in our newsletter. And if you hadn't seen it, then you didn't read the newsletter. Judy Granger's last day of providing service to our congregation was this past Friday. We're grateful for her dedication, her contributions. Thank you notes wishing her well are welcomed and encouraged. You can mail them to the office or drop them off, and we'll ensure that she receives them. In addition, Judy's scheduled for surgery on her knee, November the 18th. You can contact Sally Garber of the Caring Committee if you'd like to offer help in her convalescence. I understand her sister's coming in to be of assistance as well. And as of Monday, that's tomorrow, right? Our office hours will be 10 to 2. And I want you to welcome Samantha Lucas as a temporary office admin who will provide coverage until a long-term hire has been found. And we're in the process of interviewing for this long-term replacement as we speak. Should you have any questions, you can reach me at my phone. It's in the newsletter. Or you can call and make an appointment.
This is called Where There Is Hope, and it is by Gwyneth Walker. And I'd like to say thank you to Cynthia Petzold and Lowell Inhorn and Christopher Dyer, who played strings tonight.
My good people, leave this room and be good Unitarian Universalists. And when you find that you've fallen off the boat and the track, remind yourself of your humanness and start again. For we are the ones we've been waiting for. Blessings.